stuff I think is really important for everyone to think about what their strategy is and define it, because the tactics are going to change over time, right? Tactics are going to change. Like there's going to be this new software that you can use, or these little tactics and things that, like a certain letter, certain mailer, certain like copy that's going to work from time to time. But the strategy is really going to is defined by the market. How's the market going? What's my strategy, short-term and mid-term strategy? And then the principles that we all operate by, so like principles, strategies, tactics, that's what defines everything in our world. The principles, those never change. So the principles, the fact that real estate investing is the way to get rich, period.
You're listening to the AZREIA Show. If you're looking for quality real estate investing information that you can trust, you've found it. Stay tuned and join the tens of thousands of members that have already benefited from AZREIA, your home for education, market information, support, and networking opportunities that will advance your real estate investing career.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whenever you're listening to this podcast. This is the AZREIA Show, and welcome to another episode. And today we have Bill Allen. He's an experienced real estate investor who hails from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and the Nashville area, but he's doing things all across the country and mostly along that southern, southeast seaboard. But before we get to Bill Allen, we want to welcome again our executive director, Prete, who is my co-host. And
hello.
We're gonna jump right in, right? Because we're excited about this episode. If you don't know who Bill Allen is, not sure where you've been at, he's an experienced wholesaler. He's an experienced lead generator. He's an experienced syndicator. He's an experienced cash, private money, private capital raiser, an experienced fix and flipper. Anything else, Bill? I mean, I can go on and go on and go on.
I like to fly airplanes too, so that's
yeah. He's a pilot. He's a pilot, and I know Bill personally, guys. I was a part of his mastermind, 7-figure flipping. And it was a wealth of information that I received, and he really helped me take my business to the next level. So strap on your seatbelts, right? Make sure you have your pen, pad, notepad, because we want you to take some decent notes, because he's going to give a lot today, and he loves to serve, and that's what he's all about. So Bill, man, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great, Marcus. It's good to see you again, and thanks for having me, man. This is exciting.
Absolutely, man. So, Mike, you want to kick off the first question?
Yeah. No. First thing you said, Mark, well, you guys go back, right? Let's take it back a little bit. You guys have some history. So 7-figure flipper, right? So let's talk about, because we're the REIA, Real Estate Investing Association, right? It's all about networking, education, resources. So how's 7-figure flipper do that for the community, and how important is it to be in these groups of like-minded people?
Yeah, it's really important. I think everything that I've done, I didn't realize how important it was in the beginning. I thought I could do everything myself, like live on my own little island. So I would like watch videos, read books, listen to podcasts. And it wasn't, I remember going to my first like little meetup. It was in Maryland. It was in Southern Maryland, in Patuxent River. And I had to drive like 30 minutes up there. And I will never forget this time. I went to this meetup. There's probably 15 people there. And I was a new real estate investor. I think I had 2 rental properties then. I was in the process of fixing my first house, like fixing and flipping my first house. And I went in there. I was a test pilot in Patuxent River, Maryland, NAS Pax River. I was a test pilot testing aircraft. And so we have like engineers in the squadron, other pilots, things like that. Drove up there, walk in, and I don't know anybody. I'm very uncomfortable. I'm not a natural networker, you know? So, but I got out of my comfort zone, and I was like, you know what? I've heard that these are the places to go to see what other people are doing and just get to know some local people. I walked in, didn't recognize anybody, just started saying hello, got a little name tag, wrote my name on it. And out of the bathroom, probably after I was there for like maybe 2-3 minutes, this guy walks out, and he looks like a guy at my work. And I see him from like across the room, and I'm like, that's Casey. And he walks up to me and he's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I was going to ask you the exact same thing. So at that time, I was a lieutenant commander. I was a pilot, a test pilot. He was an engineer who was working on one of my projects. So he was just, a civilian engineer that helps us with the testing, writing the reports, those kind of things. And him and I were doing a test together. And he said, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm fixing a house. Like, I got this. He's like, where is it? We talk about it for a few minutes. And I was like, what are you doing here? He goes, I got 5 flips going on right now, all around Southern Maryland. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He probably made like 60, 70K
Well,
at his job as an engineer. And it was just that exchange right there of I was like, I couldn't even imagine doing 5 houses at a time. And this is a guy that I see at work every single day is not talking about any of this. And we had no idea that life. And so we got to know each other. We spent a time, he started asking him, how do you find your leads? How do you sell your houses? Who works on your projects? Like I'm teaching him at work. He's teaching me on the street. And you
Love it.
meet people like that. So the question was, why is it so important? It's like, you never know who you're going to meet there. You never know who you're going to do business with. And Casey and I still talk on social media from time to time, and it's just, you don't know who's going to be in that room, who you're going to meet, the opportunities that are going to be there. I've done so many deals with people. I've found so many things and built so many relationships in the room at a local event, in a local REIA like that. It's so important to be local, and then national has kind of changed a lot of my mindset. That's kind of
that. And even a key thing I see, what you just said, you guys work together on a daily basis, and you guys didn't know what each other do. Like that's real estate investing isn't like a small hobby. So it's like, that's one thing I noticed. Like I always tell people here at AZREIA, be shameless. You got to tell, if you're trying to get houses and buy vacant houses, you got to tell everyone what you're doing. So letting people know what you do outside of the networking events is huge.
Yeah. So one thing on that. So I realize that now, but in the beginning, here's the problem that everybody has at the start. They don't want to tell anybody about what they're doing until they're successful at it. And it's backwards. The problem is, like, you want to have some success, then you'll start talking about it. Like, you can't have this secret identity even when you get started, even especially when you're getting started. You got to tell people what your vision is, what your plan is, what you're doing. And most people won't put themselves out there because they're afraid to fail, right? They're afraid of, what are other people going to think about me? And that's where I was. I walked in there, and the funny thing is, I was flipping my first house, and I thought I was kind of like hot stuff. I thought I was like, I told him, I was like, oh, dude, I'm flipping this house down there. And he's like, oh, that's cool. He starts asking me, I'm kind of bragging about it. And then I ask him, thinking he's like just read a book and is checking it out for the first time. And I find out he's like this big shot in Southern Maryland flipping tons of houses. So you're exactly right. The challenge is for us is we're not willing to talk about it until we made it. And the problem is, you got to talk about it to make it. And you got to meet people. You got to put yourself out there. You got to be a little vulnerable, and you got to be willing to share your dreams, even if they don't go exactly the way that you had planned. And so put your stake in the ground and say, I'm going to do this. Other people are going to help you hold yourself accountable, and they'll hold you accountable too. So it's really important. You're exactly right, Mike. It's like, we got to share that, but we don't in the beginning. So for sure. I was right there. And that was probably 2 years of me educating myself, maybe 3 years before that even. So it just goes to show how important this stuff is. Looking back, I just spoke at one of the Pensacola REIAs in Pensacola, Florida. That's where I built my business 2 weeks ago. I flew down there. No, it was last Tuesday. I flew down there with my son, spoke at that was basically the meetup that I got my start at, met a ton of people. We've probably done 600-700 deals in that city in Pensacola. And it was amazing to go back there and see some of the same people that I saw that came back to see me and meet with me. And then all the new faces that are in there that are getting their start in real estate, and who knows who's going to be the next multi-millionaire that comes out of that room, but there's plenty.
That's even another, okay, we're in the business now, we're investing. We do talk about what we do. And you just said speak, right? So like, that's a whole nother level as an experienced investor, speaking at events, or just outside of your family. Now you graduated from there. Now you're talking in front of other investors, which is another blockage we might hit as we grow. So how's that? How do you feel about encouraging investors to get out there and speak about what they do?
I tell you what, building a brand, getting a little bit known, showing your expertise. Number one, there's something it'll do is it'll massively build your confidence. And as your confidence goes up, so does your success and your experience. And then the other thing it does is, the second that somebody walks up to you and is like, hey, it's exactly what I needed to hear. What it does is it gives you this fire. Like, what I've realized is I actually enjoy helping other people more than I enjoy helping myself. And so when you find that, when you actually experience that, it opens up a whole nother door for you. And quick story. So I run a podcast. We have a mastermind. We had about almost 300 people inside of a single family and multifamily mastermind. And we go all around the country. I do probably, 20 live events a year. I have to speak from stage. But in 2019, like from 2014 to 2019, I was building my business. I was the guy behind the scenes, doing deals, I had no platform. My email list was my buyer's list. That's it. I was not speaking at conferences, doing that stuff. And then my mentor said, hey, I want you to speak at this event. And I was like, I was so uncomfortable. If you go back there, like I have my pits are covered in pit stains of sweat. I'm so nervous. I was so uncomfortable. Like I was monotone, had no energy. It was just like, this is what I did here, all content, no belief shifts, just like, here you go, do this X, Y, and Z, you'll be successful. And when I look back at that, that was like a couple of years of that. And then he asked me to be a coach. And then I became the COO of Seven Figure Flipping. But I was behind the scenes. I wasn't in front of the camera. I wasn't the marketer. I'd show up at the events and deliver the fulfillment piece. I was a great coach. But I was not a recruiter. I wasn't a speaker. I wasn't the person who had to be on camera, running ads, dealing with marketing, bringing people in. And in 2019, I bought the company from my mentor. I bought Seven Figure Flipping from the guy who started it. And he had a podcast. And I was like, oh crap, I have to do this podcast. I called up my friend, his name's Mike Simmons. And I said, Mike, you got a podcast. Will you also do this podcast? Like, I don't want to do it. I'm scared to do it. And he's like, yeah, I'll do it for sure. It's much bigger than my podcast. So I'll definitely do it. And I realized the next day, I was like, it's a huge mistake for the company for me to do that. I got to get my voice out there. I got to get the owner out there. I have to be the one. And so I hired a coach. I hired somebody to help me. He's a public speaker that I've hired a few times. Amazing speaker. Hired him to be my coach. I paid him 10 grand for 3 Zoom calls. And he taught me how to speak. He taught me how to be in front of a crowd. He taught me how to kind of work an audience. He watched some of my previous presentations, broke them down, and just showed me a couple things. And that's from then on, because 3 months later, I had my first event in October 2019 that I had to run. I had to be the guy on stage. I had to run it all. I had to make the offer. I had to sell things, all stuff that I was afraid to do and uncomfortable to do. And so it's just a next level of me reinventing myself.
3 Zoom calls.
Have to do that. Yeah, 3 Zoom calls, 10K.
So you invested in yourself.
Exactly.
Oh, for sure. I mean, at that point, I had probably invested, in 2015, I bought my first mastermind program, $25,000. It was 7 Figure Flipping, the company I own right now. I'm like the hair club for men guy. Okay. I'm like, I'm not just the client, I'm also the president, that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So like, I came up in that world, and then I bought the company, but I still struggle with that to this day. I still get nervous before I speak in front of a couple, even 5 people. It doesn't matter. But definitely 5,000. The biggest stage I've been on, over 5,000 people. I just have to go through it. I have to do it. And what I realize is when you know what you're talking about, it becomes easy. If you're faking it, it's nerve-wracking, at least for me. Like if I know that I have walked through this, it's my story, I know what I'm talking about, no nerves. It's very easy to get in the zone and start talking about that. But when I start talking about something I don't know, I start trying to step in something that's brand new, and I'm pretending to be an expert, that's where you're off. So if you just be authentic, be you, be real, talk about the problems, it can come easy. But I still get nervous. I was sharing this the other day. I was in front of 15 people. And it was my turn to talk. And I was like, hey, can I just be real with you guys? Because this is a group of people that pay me to coach them. And I was like, can I just be real with you guys? I'm nervous right now. And I feel like I know what I'm talking about, but my heart starts beating really fast. And I get a little warmer, like 10 degrees warmer before I get the microphone, even in a small group like this. But very quickly, I just get in the zone and shake it off. So you can overcome difficult things. So with all that to be said, it's very important to share your story, speak, and start attracting what you're looking for. You attract the right people, you attract the right partners, you attract the right contractors, you attract the right, 1099 folks that are going to work with you, title companies, all the things in real estate. You're going to attract what you want if you put yourself out there. It's really important.
So it's key to get out of that comfort zone, right, Bill?
Always. If you are comfortable right now, you have a lot of blind spots. That all the growth happens in the uncomfortable places. And when you think about your identity and like all that stuff, like the comfort is just a challenging place to be. So especially for us, like entrepreneurs, business owners, we're not people that are just going to punch the clock. The comfortable people are going to go punch the clock, go home, watch TV, show up the next day, don't want a lot of responsibility, just punch. And that's fine. It's just not. Most people that are listening to this, your personal development people, you're trying to get better, you're trying to learn something new, and all the growth happens in the areas that feel a little uncomfortable. And that's the hard part. That's why everybody's like, go out and take a bunch of action. It's like, dude, I want to take action. I'm just scared.
There,
Like,
right,
shouldn't be
right.
scared.
Well, I always look at it like an entrepreneur or anyone, like you're saying, people that are trying to get better. Like we go to school, we go to work, right? Where we have this, there's always someone telling us you did it right. Right. If you just do it this way, you'll get an A. If you just if you do it this way, you'll get a job. You keep your job. But as us three, as entrepreneurs, we don't have anybody to say, you're doing right. Like,
Yep.
it could be scary, man. So yeah, I'm always uncomfortable. And our main meeting is what we do every month. It's like, I'm nervous up until it's over. And then I'm like refreshed. And then next morning, I'm like, oh, shoot, the meeting's coming up next month. And it just comes back, man. Like, I get it, man.
Well, it's just like take that all the way around in the cycle, because then it comes back to exactly how we started of you got to have a peer group. You got to be around other people that are telling you how you're doing or giving you some sort of litmus test to say, hey, where am I at? And really, a lot of times we keep moving the goalpost all the time. Like entrepreneurs do this consistently. Like we set a goal and then we hit it like way before we thought we were, but along the way we moved it further and further. So like, oh, I want to do like 10 deals this year, and you're at 8 and you're like, oh, let's make it 15. And then you're getting to 12 and it's like 20. And you never look back and say, you know what, my original goal was 10 and we crushed it. Like we really crushed it. And so there's a great book. You guys have probably read it, The Gap in the Gain. So it's like, how do we live in the gain? How do we look back and say, look how far we've come? And it was really cool to do that. Go back down to the Pensacola AZREIA. It's called the Professional Investors Guild, PIG. And I went back there, and to be there, I just looked around and I was like, man, you know what? It's really cool to see these new faces, these people that are coming in here that have no idea what's the potential of their future. And to look back and say, it was only like 6 years ago that I was in the audience here still, 6, 7 years ago. And the first meeting I ever went to was like in 2013. So it was less than 10 years ago, or I guess it's 11 years now. But it's just unbelievable to see how far you can come in such a short period of time. We just wanted to go faster. The other thing I think for your listeners that go into these rooms, if they're there for the first time or they've been there for a while, there's really 3 groups of people that I see at a local event like this all the time. One is the people who just show up every single month, and they're more for social, like it's a social club. They're actually not doing a lot. They're really just kind of showing up and they're getting the information, but they're not taking action with it. They're feeling like this is a place that I can go to hang out with some people. And then there's the people who are new, I think, that show up that haven't been that much, don't really know. Maybe it's their first time there, or they've been one other time. And then there's the people who are actually doing deals, and a lot of deals. Like they're actually taking action, they're doing deals, and they kind of segment like those 2 of people who just show up for social and the people who are actually really active doing a lot. They kind of like part in the middle. They're like on different sides of the room. At least I found at all these places that I've been. And so what I realized when I was new, what I had to do when I showed up there is I had to find the people that were actually doing deals. I had to find the people that were moving forward every single month. They showed up with growth, not in the same place they were last month. And I want to figure out how to get into that circle. Like I want to bust in to that group. And I saw the same thing at this Pensacola meetup that I went to. I saw the people that were there in 2013 when I was there, talking about the same thing, and maybe they have like a couple rentals, but it's doing the same stuff. Not a lot of growth. And then a lot of the people that I was there with, the circle that I broke into, they're the speakers at the event now. Like they don't show up every single month anymore, although they should, as you guys know. They should continue to show up because there's deals in there, there's money in there. And it was very interesting to see the up and coming folks and I gave the same advice when I was there. I said, if you're new, if this is your first event and you don't have a plastic name tag, you got a sticker name tag because it's your first event and you're checking it out, you got to figure out what direction you want to go. Do you want to come here for social time, or do you want to come here for growth? You want to come here for growth, bust into the people and find the folks that are really doing deals. And that's the same advice I would give to anybody. I don't see it a lot in like big paid masterminds. Usually those people are like, they're paying a lot of money, so they're all kind of hustling. But definitely in some of the RIAs or meetups or those kind of things that I've run and I've seen, I always see this kind of split. And I always encourage the people that go there every month to like, how do you move into the area of action? And that's always what we're trying to do. So if you're new, coming to these events, I find it's really important because the people that are doing a lot, like we talked about before, they want to talk about what they're doing. They want to share. They want to tell you. They want to help you. And the second they give you some help and support and you do your first deal, it's going to make them want to help you more.
That's true. And for your group, so you're already in a group of action takers, let's say. And how do you keep, like, what's your goal? Like, how do you keep them moving, or how do you keep a group of successful people? Like, what's
Like
that?
as a leader, like me as a
Yeah,
leader?
as a leader. Yeah.
Okay. So like the thing that I have to do is I have to grow faster than them. So
Okay.
what I realize is I cast an umbrella, right? There's an umbrella that I have. And the second that I am not continuing to grow and push and reset the bar as a leader, then somebody's going to outgrow me. And that's okay. If that's not in my business plan, if my business plan is not to go build a 20, 50, $100 million company in real estate, and somebody else wants to do that and is starting to do that, what they're going to realize is they got to go somewhere else for that kind of mentorship. And that's fine. That's fine. So if you're building something right now and you're the leader and you're kind of the person who's out in front, what you got to realize is it's okay if some of those people build something up and then they kind of fly the coop. Like that's totally cool. Like they're going a different direction. They're trying something else. But, and I've seen this in my business too. I use it as, I think about leadership maybe a little different than most people. If people like, but what I want to do is I want to also keep those people close. I want to be able to get on a call with like Marcus and we have a great relationship. And he's like, oh man, like he remembers the time that we worked together and he's like, you know what? I really appreciate the heart that this guy had, the support, those kind of, they got nice things to say about you when you're not around. And so what I find is I use my business as an example. My business, Blackjack Real Estate, is the one that we buy and flip houses, kind of Pensacola, Florida, Nashville, Chattanooga, down in the middle of Florida, like Tampa area, Lakeland. And so we got those kind of markets. And I was bringing up these people inside my company, and I brought up this. He was a dispositions rep for me for a while, so he was selling our properties in the very beginning. And then he got to a point where we kind of like outgrew the company a little bit and he wanted to do something new. So he started doing marketing. He started doing direct mail marketing and creating mailers and copy and stuff like that for people. And his name's Ryan Smith. He built a company called Lead Smith. He's a great resource for like marketing strategy, sales, like that kind of copy, niche type lists. Like he was like a wizard in finding data and finding information about people and tracking them down. Started his own company, built it up, doing like $1 million a year. But we are still like he's one of my coaches. We're still really tight. When I went down to Pensacola, I had lunch or I had dinner with him and his son, with me and my son. He's like the guy that I was like, hey, if I come in town, I got to see you. And if he needs advice, he was in my high-level mastermind for a few years, calls me up for advice, all this stuff, you know? So a leader doesn't cast that person away, and because they are like quitting and going to start their own business saying, you're dead to me, good luck. It's going to be tough out there. I bet you come crawling back to me like most people do. Most people are like, man, it's really going to take a hit on my company. Instead, I would say if you find people that are building something and have other people that they've supported and coached and trained that are still really close to them, that's a sign, I think, of a good leader. I have the same thing for my lead intake rep. She now runs a company called Hire Train VA. She hires VAs from all across the country. Her name's Val Brega. She's amazing. I had a videographer named Andre. Andre is Val's husband. He worked for me as my personal videographer for 3 years. Now he does like podcast editing, video editing, cuts for everybody. Has a huge business, does really, really well. But I mean, they live right down the road from me. I made a move here when he was my videographer. They come over and hang out. I just flew him down to Dallas for an event with me. It's just like, it's really important. If I can't build an umbrella that's big enough to keep them, we got to let them fly away, if that makes sense. So as a leader, your job is to inspire people. It's to recruit people. It's to bring them in. It's to cast the vision, and it's to keep building something. And if you're happy where you are, that's cool. Just realize that as you build up good people, it's natural for them to want to kind of go try their own thing. And then because then you're a leader building leaders. Like if you can build other leaders, that's the sign of an amazing leader.
Yeah. That was the point that I was going to drive home is, a great leader builds other leaders, and those other leaders build other leaders. So great point. And speaking of that, Bill, I was thinking about Chad also, how he pivoted into doing more multifamily. So kind of touch on that, how you guys pivoted from doing single family, fixing and flipping and wholesaling over to multifamily.
Yeah, our fix and flip and single family like wholesale business was doing about 200 deals a year for a while. My first year I did 67, then we did 137 the year after that, then we did 187. There were about 200 deals a year after that. I had a COO that was running the company. I was working probably 2 hours a week, and then I was focusing on the education company, seven-figure flipping. Chad came to me. Chad's a great example. I can't believe I left him out. So he came to me as somebody else's sales rep. So there's a guy named Mike Brown in Miami that said, hey, I got a great sales rep. He's moving up to Nashville. You should meet him. And I was like, I don't know. Like, my company's doing fine right now. I'll meet him just to kind of make you happy. He was in the mastermind with me. And I met with this guy. And at that time I had like, it was mostly like older women that were working with me as sales reps to buy houses. I was like, they're really kind of like welcoming. They can build rapport really quickly. They're relatable, that kind of stuff. And they were doing great. Chad came, he was he's probably like 24, 25, like tall, like fit, good looking guy. And I was like, nobody's going to sell a distressed house to this. Like, there's just no way. But he was a smooth talker, negotiating commission, putting his money where his mouth is, all this stuff. So I hired him. He came in and he was a sales rep for me. Beat everyone like 3-1. Like, he was out buying houses like 3 times better than everybody else. He was a 24/7 gunslinger. It was absolutely incredible. I totally turned my thought upside down of what a good acquisitions rep looks like physically looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why I thought that. It was just, it had been working for me for the last like 5 years.
What does a sales rep look like, Bill?
Well, right now I have no idea. Like, I used to think that it looks like, I don't want to put down any of my old sales reps listen to this, but just like a normal person, not like a 9 or a 10.
Gotcha.
So I'm glad that I'm secure enough in my manhood to call Chad a 9 or a 10. I hope he doesn't listen to this. So he came in and just absolutely crushed it. And then what was really interesting about it? So he moved up as an acquisitions rep to be my sales manager, and then started doing some sales training and some sales coaching on the side and stuff like that. And I can just see, like, this guy, if I don't buy 1,000 houses, this guy's going to leave me at some point. And I just knew it. And it's fine. Like, I'm still building him up. We're promoting him. He comes into the community, starts training on sales inside seven-figure flipping, paying him for that. Unbeknownst to me, he starts going to another mastermind to learn multifamily on his own, like on the weekends. He's still buying houses, doesn't even tell me. I see it on like Facebook. Him and his wife are like up in Kentucky or something at some event, learning multifamily. And I was like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, for the past year, I've been like studying multifamily because that's where I want to go. Like, I'm going to build all my wealth in multifamily. And I was like, oh, cool. He's like, it's not going to affect my work. So he does that. And then he comes to me and he's like, hey, I got this building that I want to buy down in Huntsville. Do you want to partner on it? Like, do you want to bring the money and partner on it with me? Because he didn't have the money. And he still to this day doesn't like raising money. And so we did that deal together. We did a couple other deals together, and we started building a multifamily platform and portfolio for ourselves. So we bought 49 units in Chattanooga. We bought 93 units here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We bought a couple buildings together. And we got to the point where I was like, I'm getting uncomfortable with the size buildings that we're building with our experience. So we ended up bringing in another partner named Jason Yarusi and his wife Peely. And so since then we've been buying multifamily. But this young, he's not a kid. I mean, he's an adult. He's married now. He's got 2 kids. But he was dating his wife at the time, or just newly married. And he just showed me so much of what's possible. And just being able to partner with somebody like that and see his growth. His growth has been exponential since I've been watching him. And just saying yes to every crazy thing that he wants to do, pretty much, that I can support. And so we've been buying he's probably got, I don't know, 1,500 doors now, maybe 1,000, probably 1,500.
And this has only been a few years now, right?
Yeah, it was he probably started like really gunning in like 2019, 2020. Yeah, probably 2020. Okay. Maybe even 2021, actually. Yeah, it was like, during pandemic, our business started shifting a little bit. We went from doing 200 houses to about 60 houses a year now. And then we buy about 6 to 8 multifamily buildings a year. And so I got to raise $15 million in the next 2 months, I think. So it's okay.
Well, that's a good problem to have.
But yeah, it's a good problem as long as I can do it.
Right.
That was another good point. Like, maybe we could go down the weeds a little bit, raising money and joint ventures, like partnership. He doesn't like raising money, but he had a skill set of finding deals. You have a skill set of raising money. Like, some people might hold themselves back because they're afraid to ask for the money, but they could find it. It's cool how you get his partner and you don't have to do it all yourself. Like, it's an amazing relationship.
Yeah, and really, I think back to the first few houses I ever did in flips. I flipped 2 houses on my own, and then when I joined that mastermind, 7-figure flipping, there was a guy in there who had money. He lived in San Diego, but he didn't even come to the meetings. He did not like people, didn't like gatherings, all that stuff. He joined just to be connected with people. And I don't even know what that means, but like maybe just like linked up with one person because he never like we did this first meeting in California, and I went to a Starbucks to meet with him because we had talked on the phone a couple times. He didn't even want to. It was like a half mile from the hotel that we were at, and there were only 20 of us in the room. He just wanted to meet one-on-one. We sat down, had coffee, and he ended up funding all of my deals, like all my flips. He brought all the money, I did all the work, and we split everything 50-50. I did my first like 8 flips like that, and until I realized that I could raise money a lot cheaper. And then we just kind of parted ways. Still talk from time to time. Great guy. I would have used him forever, but I just realized that there's a different system, right? And a different model that worked well. And I was very good at raising money. And so I've been on the other side of that since then. I've put a lot of money in other people's deals, and we've split the profits 50-50. They've done the work. And so, you find the right person that can kind of either kick off your business, it can accelerate it, it can grow it faster. But if 1 + 1 = 10, that's what's important. Like if 1 + 1 = 2, you should probably potentially figure out that skill set or find somebody who can really like accelerate something more for you. What I realized is with me and my partner then in the very beginning, 1 + 1 really was equaling 2. I could have raised that capital at like, I was raising money at like 6%, 5% back then at like 2014, 2015. So yeah, Chad was very much just, hey, I see an opportunity here. Let me latch onto it. And then he also knew that I had a platform. So we built a multifamily platform. So we have a multifamily mastermind now that Chad is a partner in, and then Jason and Peely are partners of mine in. And we run all the back end, and they're the coaches on the front end of that platform.
Love it, man.
Excellent.
So on the
You're right. It's very much like if you find the right people and you can bring them together. I mean, that's a skill set in and of itself, is finding the right people and bringing them together for a common goal.
Love it.
So true. Partnerships are very important, guys. You listening here, so don't be afraid to, partner with people that have different skill sets than you. That's what you really want to look for, because if me and Bill have the same skill sets, then that 1 + 1 is only going to equal 2. But once you find someone that has a totally different skill set and excels at it, that's who you need to be partnering with.
Let me put a little caveat on that, especially for the newer people listening. At least this is my thought. You guys can tell me what you guys think.
Yep.
I see a lot of people partner in the beginning when they're just getting started because they're not confident or they're scared.
Yep.
And so please don't do that. And that's not what I did in the beginning. We did deal by deal JVs. We didn't build an LLC and partner together and because I would have had to unwind that whole thing if I decided to go use private money and not do deals with him anymore. So we didn't build a company together. He had his own company, I had my own company, and we just did JVs together. So each individual deal was a JV. So that's a joint venture. Basically, we had a joint venture agreement. He brought the money, I brought the work and the property, and then we split the profits 50-50. So every deal had its own joint venture agreement that we made. And then that's kind of like dating before you get married. The way I think about it is, don't just jump right in just because you met somebody at AZREIA, a meeting somewhere online, wherever, and you have alternate skill sets. Go do a deal together, see how that works. And then maybe do deals together over a longer period of time before you start an entire company together. Because I've seen that go really, really bad. And it's very rare that I see like an early partnership go really, really well. Long term, and by long term, I don't mean 1 year. I'm talking like 5 years, 10 years plus, like a real business, 20, 30 years. So you can do that. You can just do one-off deals together. That's always my advice from the beginning and then you get to a cadence of doing deals like that for a year or more together. And like, hey, I think it just makes more sense for us to just do this together.
Pardon. Yeah.
That's what I think. I don't know.
That's great.
No, that's great. I mean, date before you get married, right? That's what everybody should do. That way you can feel each other out and see, hey, is this somebody that has the same level of integrity that I do, things like that, before you really put it together.
Yes. Yeah. You don't even have an opportunity when you're excited in that perspective. Like that's what happens. You like this, you want to do this. We both want to be rich, and you're blind by the red flags, right? So great point. So as we wind down, Marcus, if you have any last questions, I do want to touch on the multifamily.
No, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, like just a perspective, you know, the doom and gloom, you know, there's those perspectives chatting around now, like there's a correction in the multifamily world. If so, what is your thoughts and how are you preparing for that?
Yeah, I always look at everything as supply and demand. So like
Mhm.
everything, single family, it really doesn't matter. That's the equation that game we play
Yep.
in. I think there's
Okay.
money to be made in any market right
Mm-hmm.
now. So, like any market, up market, down market, sideways market. If you have the right strategy, you're making money. There's always somebody making money. In the stock market right now, if the stock market goes down, like somebody's making money.
Yeah.
If it goes up, somebody's making money. Like it's just the way it is. So the way I look at it is just I try to look at my competitive advantage in the market. So what like we're buying right now. We're actually buying more now than we did in the last year and a half. And part of that is because some of this stuff, there's people that are trading some assets that are below market because they're in a little bit of a sticky spot.
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
they had maybe some bridge debt that they're trying to refi. Like all of our refinances now with banks, they went from 75% LTV to 65% LTV. So when you're talking
Okay.
about, let's just talk about a $20 million building real quick, everyone. A $20
Okay.
million
Yep.
building, and we change that percentage. We're talking about millions of dollars that you have to come up
Yeah.
with, like an extra 2 million bucks. And so if that's the case, where's it coming from? It's coming from the investors. If the investors don't have it, that's called a capital call.
Yeah.
If the investors don't have it, then you're watering down their investment and bringing in new
Yep.
capital and changing the stack. And then all your investors hate you pretty much
Yep.
because now
Yep.
they're getting watered down on the same project. It's the exact same project. And that's called a cash in refinance, which is like unheard of. Everybody that understands what a cash out refinance is has been talking about it for the last 10 years. And this is a cash in. Like I'm going to bring $2 million to the table, maybe more, to just refinance this building. So I'm not paying $20,000 a month in bridge debt fees
Here's
because I'm
that.
holding the bridge debt long. So one example is we have a couple properties that we just bought that it was an out-of-state investor that's a bigger group that bought a chunk of properties. And they have equity in the places in Murfreesboro, but they have to do a refi. So they want to take that equity and then refi the other properties that they have that they would rather hold long-term for them because it's closer to where they are. And so we had the opportunity to step in and buy those buildings at a discount. And it
Nice.
works for us. So big picture, what I would say the best thing to do is like, I think that people need to like understand their strategy and their focus. So instead of buying all over the Southeast now, we're really focused on buying in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Because
Got
we
it.
have a great property manager, we have great law of scales, we have a bunch of other doors there. We're a great buyer in the market. My audience, my investor base knows it. They've seen great returns there. They're excited about it. It's the third highest growing city in the country. Things like
Mhm.
that, which is like huge benefit. There's a moratorium on building there because of the sewer capacity. So you
Okay.
can't, people aren't building a bunch of brand new stuff that's going to compete with us in a year or two. So there's all just really good things. And now that I talked about it, probably everybody's going to try to go there, which is cool because it's supply and demand. So if you go grab
Yep.
up all the supply, then now there's going to be demand and I have buildings to
Yep.
sell. All of this stuff I think is really important for everyone to think about what their strategy is and define it because the tactics are going to change over time, right? Tactics are going to change. Like there's going to be this new software that you can use or these little tactics and things
Yep.
that work, like certain letter, certain mailer, certain like copy that's going to work from time to time. But the strategy is really going to defined by the market, I believe. Like how's the market going? What's my strategy? Like short-term and mid-term strategy. And then the principles that we all operate by. So like principles, strategies, tactics. That's what defines everything in my world. The principles, those never change. So the
Yeah.
principles, the fact that real estate investing is the way to get rich, period, like end of story. I don't care
Right.
how much you want to sell Bitcoin to me. I don't care how much you want to sell a stock market to me. I have a competitive advantage in real estate. I understand it. It's tangible. It's real. I love it. And everybody that has money pretty much has some real estate for sure. So that principle and the principle of doing business the right way, of serving people, of helping, of being ethical, those don't change, right?
Mhm.
And then our strategy is going to adjust based on the market. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. So if you're not making as much money right now as you're making before, it's probably because you're using an outdated strategy in a different market.
Mm.
And so I would
Mm.
say, how can you pivot out into a new strategy to serve you the best in what's coming? And same thing. If you ever read Who Moved My Cheese, you guys ever read this book?
Yep. Yep.
My cheese.
Mhm.
It's one of my
Yeah.
favorites. Like,
Yeah.
the cheese is always moving. So like, what if you were there before it got there? Like you kind of anticipated where it was going and you're one of the first people to find it. The mice in that book that died are the ones that are just sitting around like, wait, the cheese was
Sitting
here
out.
yesterday. Keep showing up to the
Yep.
same spot over and over and over again, expecting it to be there. And honestly, for 7-figure flipping, we didn't make as much money um, last year as we had the previous years because I was really doing the same thing for like the last 5 years straight, expecting like better and better results just if I worked harder. And so we've really had to figure out how to change strategies a little bit, how to shift with the market and make some adjustments. So that's my biggest piece of advice. And as far as multifamily goes, like there's money there. I mean, there's legacy wealth to be made there. I don't care what you do if you're listening, but if you're fixing and flipping or you're wholesaling, you've got to be building your net worth at the same time. So if you're flipping 3, keep 1. If you're flipping 100, take the cash that you're making, put it into multifamily, be a passive investor, be an LP, just bury your money somewhere in long-term net worth growth and eventual cash flowing assets. And that's how you grow net worth, not just building your business only. Because
there you go.
I mean, you say you're reinvesting in your business, you're just not paying yourself.
Love it.
So guys, some key things right there, right? Principles, strategies, and tactics. So keep that in mind. Principles, strategies, and tactics. You have to be a forerunner. So you have to know where the market is going and try and get out in front of it versus doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I was guilty of that. Same thing, Bill. It was like, I'm going to do the same thing over and over and think I'm going to get the same results or better results. And then I had to completely pivot and do something different. So, man, thank you for keeping us in tune and in line with what's going on as far as business principles, simple business principles.
Yeah, and we don't know it, Marcus, until it actually happens to us most times. So that's why you gotta be honest with yourself. You gotta be honest with the other people around you. You have a network of people. Come to the meetings, go to the REIA, and don't say everything's fine when it's not fine. Like it's not fine. Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to everybody else. People want to help you, so start saying, "Hey, I need some help. This is what's going on. Hey, my business isn't making as much money as it was before. What's happening?" Like find somebody who can go in there and figure it out with you. And wants to help. That's the biggest thing. Same thing. I was like, oh, I'm fine. Everything's going to be fine. Like, no, not fine. And I'm probably the only coach, the only info product guy, the only person out there of thousands who's actually saying, yeah, I didn't make money last year. It looks online, social media, all looks real good. Like you go, I mean, people are flying around. People are going to all these events. People are spending money. There's a lot of people hurting out there. And so just the second you can be honest with yourself, second, you can say, hey, I got to change something. I got to make something, the faster it's going to go. So pivot early if you're starting to see declines. And the best way is to just look at the data when it comes to that. We just look at the numbers, look at the finances, say something's happening here.
Something's happening, right?
Yeah. And also the biggest advice I can give that I had to learn is like, let's just assume that everything we're doing is wrong. Like stop saying that that's how we have to do it. Like an example, real quick example is, my big event is in October every year. October, every single year, I have this event called Flip Hacking Live. Every October, you're going into a season where real estate slows down for like the next 4 months.
4 months,
People are like sleeping for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I've always been like, you know what? If I can jack people up and ramp them up and get them excited and they can go into the holidays and continue marketing and doing deals that other people are resting and sleeping, they're going to have the leg up. They do the training for 3 months. When they hit the spring, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I doing that? It's just because that's what my mentor always had. He just did the event in October because he was just like, let's do the event in October. So every year it was in October. And this year I said, I got an election coming up. 4 years ago, it was a disaster in October. October was a disaster 4 years ago. I'm like, I don't know if I want to live through that again. But it was the middle of COVID. So it didn't affect my live event business. So I'm like, man, this is going to be a challenge. So we took our live event in October and I said, I'm doing that event virtual this year. It's going to be virtual in October. I'm not taking the risk and the responsibility of a live event bill. I spent $1 million on my live event last year. And I said, and so we may be able to make an adjustment. We'll take it virtual and figure out when is the best month for us to do this event.
Okay.
Forward. So like things like that, it's like, I actually took an event. It was my entire company. It makes money from that event for the year. I said, let's burn it down. Let's figure out how to make an adjustment this year. And we're in the middle of kind of pivoting when we're going to do our live in-person event again. And so I will have like a big in-person event this October, or in May, our multifamily event is also virtual. So I said, hey, we're gonna make an adjustment this year. We're gonna shift some things up and adjust our entire company calendar, but it's like a big ship that it takes me like 2 years to make that adjustment. So
And what are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Like, I was gonna start going winding down, but now you got me thinking, man.
Let's
So,
go.
like no, it's like the power of in-person networking, right? Like
Yeah.
us growing, well, we all three of us been in the business a decade more, right? So it's like that's so powerful. But times change, like you said, things adapt. So people love we do so we can see the decrease in attendance too at times, right? So it's like, but you do a Zoom call, it could be 100 people in there. So it's like,
Yep.
what are yeah, I don't even know what I was asking. I'm just like, so you're going to Zoom, so obviously you see a play there or
Yeah,
online. Sorry.
but we do an experience. So I did this in 2020. I have a
Yeah, I
mentor
remember.
also in my event business. Her name's Barry and Blue. They run a company called Sage. They're incredible, absolutely incredible. Taught me everything I know about high ticket sales, conversion, live events, all that stuff. And just honestly, just serving people. Like they run Tony Robbins events. You ever seen Tony Robbins' huge virtual events? So Tony Robbins, Jeff Walker, Amy Porterfield, like some of the biggest in the industry that she does. Dean's events. She's doing Pace's event here in a few months. And so they're absolutely incredible. She built a studio in 2020 because all of her live events went virtual. And so we did a virtual event in 2020. It was incredible. Like I was able to spend the money on the speakers, on the experience, on sending people a box and thinking through the whole process that I would normally spend at a hotel. People don't have to fly there. They don't have to get a hotel.
Yep.
They don't have to take 5 days away from their family. And we can still build in networking. So we do breakout sessions in Zoom like this, like 3 of us talking and sharing our experiences, getting to know each other, actually networking. I'm able to do all kinds of stuff that I can't do in person. And then I can also bring thousands of people together as opposed to maybe just a couple hundred people. We have like 1,100 people at our live event in person, but it takes a lot for me to, it took me a lot for me to grow that. We started at 100 people and that now we're at 1,100. And probably one of the biggest like live in-person one-time events that we have in our industry. But like, what if I can bring 3,000 people virtual, 5,000 people virtual, people that wouldn't normally get to see this, people from outside the country even that can be impacted by this. And there's also people that don't learn the best in person. They actually are more introverted, would rather be virtual. And those people are not coming to live events and getting those kinds of experiences. So the reason why I'm afraid to do it, let's use the word afraid, is because of my current customer base that's been going to the live event in person for years. And I'm letting them drive the business decisions, which I care about those people. I really do. And so what I did for those people is we're building out meetup areas for them where they can actually go to an Airbnb, be together in person, and watch it virtually. And then the person who wants to sit in their basement, like honestly, some of my best customers, some of my best members of 7-Figure Flipping came from that 2020 virtual event that were like, there's no way that you're going to hold my attention for 3 days on Zoom. And it's not like this. It's not a Zoom call like this. It's very interactive. They see each other. They see themselves on the screen. I'm calling them up. I'm asking them questions. I'm interacting with the audience. I have TV screens in front of me. I can see 1,000 people at one time in this huge studio. So I'm not here in front of my camera at my office. I am actually flying to South Carolina to do it in a huge studio where I can see thousands of people.
That's great.
And I can definitely second that, Bill, because I was there for the 2020 event. And just to say it's a Zoom is not at all true. I mean, it's very, very interactive. And then, like you said, the ladies, they went and got an Airbnb and all of them were together going through the event. So it was an immersive experience. It was something different that I've never been to or never seen, because it was almost like you were there and then you had the breakout sessions where everybody was together. So it was innovative. I can say that.
If you can think through the whole thing, so like if you can think through exactly what you want to have these people do, what you want to get them through, you think through the dialogue, the breakout sessions, the doing maybe a workbook or an exercise or something like that, then people really think that you thought about it. It's not just like, oh, here's the next speaker. So I think it's really important to give them a similar experience virtual than you do in person, and really think it through. And then they think, wow, I've never been on something like this before. Like I've been on these like webinars and Zoom calls and stuff like that, but you're interacting with other people, you're being seen, you're getting called up. Like there's things that I can do on there that I can't do in person. Like I can't do breakout sessions in person. I can't send you to go, hey, 5 of you, go talk and get your biggest takeaways and then share it with the group. Like Can you imagine if I did that inside of a conference room of 1,000 people? It would be chaos for an hour trying to get all the cats herded back. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do. And imagine doing that for $200 instead of charging somebody, in my case, it's like $2,500. Even if it's a $200 ticket, you got to buy a plane ticket round trip for you and possibly a spouse. And then you got to buy hotel rooms for 4 nights for a 3-day event. And it's just like, next thing you know, you're paying $2, $3, $4,000 when you can have the same experience for $200 and get a little bit of DoorDash. There's a benefit, but I definitely get the pushback
behind you. And everything.
Like there's a screen behind you that throw up the emojis, like, and you could see your emojis going up. We put like $signs, bags of cash, like all that stuff. And just, it's a great experience. I fly some people into the studio to give the presentation there. Some of my big keynote speakers, as many people as I can, let's get them to the studio where they're live there, not, talking from their computer and things like that. So I would say I think there's a shift and people are expecting some of that, but not expecting that kind of experience. But the other thing is, I still think that nothing beats the impact that I can make from a live in-person event.
Yeah.
The impact that you get from being there in a room full of people that are just like you, that you've never been in, that is a total, like, that cannot be, that feeling can't be 100% duplicated on virtual. Yeah. And that's like, the amount of impact that I can make in person is higher, but the number of people and the distance that I can get goes up virtual. So it's kind of like weighing those two things. So I'll never stop doing the in-person events. Like all of our fulfillment events are in person here at the office. We have a hybrid if people can't make it, but they come to my office. We got 16,000 square feet here in Spring Hill outside of Nashville. And then every 90 days we get together to work, in person. Yep. So that can't be duplicated, I don't think.
Well said, man. Well,
excellent.
Well, I really appreciate you being here, man. That was great.
Yeah.
Great show, man.
So, Bill, for those that are listening, how can we reach you? How can we find you? How can we connect with you?
Yeah, I got a podcast called 7-Figure Flipping. I love interviewing some of our members, breaking down deals. We try to bring in some pretty big guests as well. And then, Marcus, you were on the show, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I'm building up social media quite a bit right now. So I have a YouTube channel, both 7-Figure Flipping and then my own. It's just my name, Bill Allen. I fly in my airplane, interview entrepreneurs from the cockpit.
I saw you had Ed Reed on there.
I had Ed Reed recently. Yeah, I flew Ed to the Super Bowl. It was an amazing experience. So it gives me a platform where I can get somebody like that, a Hall of Fame safety for the Ravens, Super Bowl champion. Ended up spending time with Reggie Wayne while we were there, played for the Colts. Come on. It was like Emmitt Smith, Jerry Rice, Thurman Thomas, Jim Kelly, Steve Young, Eli Manning. Like, I was in a room with all these people.
All the Hall of Famers. Yeah.
It was insane. It just opened up such a crazy, LT was there, Eric Dickerson. Oh, it's incredible. So, so that YouTube channel has been a lot of fun. I got some great guests coming up. I won't spoil it, but I got some pretty big names coming in the plane soon. And then my Instagram is just Bill. They're both Bill Allen REI. My Instagram and YouTube is kind of what I'm focused on right now. Yeah.
Perfect.
Go connect with Bill.
Thank you so much. Yep. Thank you so much, Bill, for being here. You guys know what to do, and you know what AZREIA is all about. It's about empowering each investor one property at a time. So reach out to Mike, reach out to me, reach out to Bill if you have any questions about really escalating your real estate business. So thank you again, Bill. Much success to you and 7-Figure Flipping. And guys, thank you, and we're signing off.
Thanks for listening to the AZREIA Show with your hosts, Marcus Maloney and Mike Prete. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you found this information valuable, head over to AZREIA.org and learn more about our community.